And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a project. Whenever you want to create a new program, you create a project first. And a project is kind of like a folder where you keep all of the files that you need to make that one program. Okay, and we'll call this one calculator demo. And as you might guess, Windows applications are very complicated. However, Visual Studio does a lot of the work for you. You don't have to worry about how to draw a window and how to create buttons and so on. A lot of that is actually done for you. Very easy without writing hardly any code at all. So I'm going to show you what Visual Studio creates for us. You can see here on left center is the actual form, the window that is part of our application. We didn't write any code. Visual Studio created this for us. On the right side, you actually see a list of all the files that are part of our project. And a lot of these things are we may never talk about during class. But the main file that we're going to be working with is this form1.cs. And to open a file, you simply double click on it. And well, it's already open. If we right click on it and say view code, then we'll see the actual source code associated with that file. This is C# source code. Source code is not what the computer understands right off the bat. This is programming languages are mostly English and math, basically, that humans can write and understand. And part of what Visual Studio does is it takes the code that we wrote in C# and it compiles it, it transforms it into machine language that the computer can understand and execute as a program. And we'll come back to this code in just a little bit. First, let me show you the properties form. So if we click on any control that we have on our form, including the form itself, and then go over here on the right side to the Properties tab, we will see various characteristics of that control. And you can change the way the control looks, the text that appears, the background color, everything, by changing its properties. And some properties can be changed when you create the program, others you can change during the program's execution. For example, you can make the window minimize itself without the user actually doing anything. So that's kind of cool. Let's change the text property of this form. And that'll change the text that actually shows up in the form's title. We're going to call this Calculator Demo. And there it is. Now it's changed. Now the title of our form is Calculator Demo. Well, let's create those text boxes and buttons that we were talking about earlier. The toolbox on the left-hand side allows you to insert various common Windows controls into your program. A lot of these are controls that you've already used before when you just in the course of using Windows programs, but you probably did not know what they were called. For example, the text box is called a text box. And all we do to create one is we choose the text box control from the toolbox, and then we click and drag to draw the outline of our text box. And Visual Studio automatically adds one for us. Now to select the operation that we're going to do, plus, minus, multiply, or divide, we're going to use a combo box. And I'll put that right here. And to do a little line under the numbers, I'm going to kind of cheat here. I'm going to use this panel thing, this panel control. Okay. And then I'm going to change its back color property. The The back color property is the background color for that panel. I'm going to change it to black. Kind of looks like a line. Close enough. And now we're going to create another text box that's going to be the result. Okay. And now, if you want to move all these controls around, all you got to do is drag across them and then click and drag them wherever you want. So I can do a little cleanup here, make it look a little bit better. Now we're going to create a couple buttons. Do you notice the blue lines? Those are really handy because they help you align the various controls with each other, give you a nice clean look to your program. I oftentimes don't worry about that much at the very beginning when I'm first creating the program, but then later on, once I know what kind of controls I'm going to have and everything's starting to gel, I actually go back and realign things. You can align things whenever you want. It doesn't really matter. Okay. So let's run our little program. All you gotta do is push this play button near the top of your screen, and Visual Studio compiles the code, and it'll actually execute it. So here it is, our very first Windows application, and it looks pretty much like the way it's gonna look when we are finished. Doesn't do anything yet. If we click on these buttons, they don't do anything. But the window can be resized, the window can be moved around, minimized, and restored, all without us having to write a single line of code. Not impressed yet? Wait, there's more. So let's actually start writing a little code. Oh, first let's give all of our controls names. As I said, in programming languages you store data and information in variables, and controls are kind of like variables that have names. That makes it easy for you to refer to them. That's why you have a name, so that your parents and friends can easily refer to you instead of calling you hey you or hey snot-nosed kid. So let's specify the names of all these things. This text box has a name, and we shall call it txtx. Okay. I like to give all of my controls a 3-letter prefix so that when I'm programming I can easily recognize what kind of control that is simply by the prefix. I'm going to name the second one txty. This combo box is going to be called CMB op. This text box is going to be txtr. This first button, let's have that be our compute button. I give buttons a prefix of btn. This will be a clear button. Really, Visual Studio does not care what I name these buttons as long as they don't have any spaces in their names. But it's mostly for my benefit that I name them the way that I do. Notice that we changed the names of the buttons, but the text did not change. That's because we need to change their text property. So for this one, we're going to type clear. And for this other one, compute.